It's fair to say that we're at a pivotal time for television. It's a great time to be a viewer. There's never been so much choice in terms of TV programmes to watch. It's also a great time to be an advertiser, insofar as the amount of research that's out there, a lot of which we've seen this morning, which helps us to make decisions. But there's also a lot of uncertainty, and I think the pace of change is getting faster than ever. And with changing viewing habits comes a change in terms of what ITV is delivering as well. So we've got a new CEO, and we've also got a new strategy, and it's an exciting time at ITV, and I wanted to share a bit with you what that strategy is and what our vision for the future of TV advertising is within that. Our vision at ITV is to move from being a media partner to a valued business partner for clients. And we believe that the way that we can deliver that is through being more than TV. This arguably is somewhere between an evolution and a revolution in terms of what ITV has done in the recent past, but I want to outline to you the 3 ways in which we're going to deliver that. Now, what we've been renowned for is delivering mass simultaneous reach through big TV programmes, many of which we've got on screen here, and we will continue to spend over £1 billion in terms of making those programmes and commissioning those programmes and getting them onto TV. But with changing viewing habits comes obviously the growth that we've seen over the last 3 years with the ITV hub. And we now stand at almost 27 million registered users. It's one of the biggest databases there is in the UK. And that's given us unprecedented access in terms of the data that we sit on there. This is across shared viewing, across live viewing, catch-up, as well as across 33 different platforms. And that's enabled us to look at a whole suite of addressable, targeted opportunities for advertising. And this enables us to deliver the best of both worlds, which we believe is what more than TV can do in terms of driving effectiveness for brands. The second way is around creative brand partnerships. And if we take Love Island, for instance, whilst its audience was almost doubling this year versus last year and becoming part of popular culture, we worked with 11 different brands in partnership, the ones that are shown here on screen, to deliver something that we think is more than TV. It wasn't just sponsorship or product placement or licensing, it was developing product lines, looking at direct consumer opportunities through the app, developing podcasts. And the results that we've got, some of which on screen there, speak for themselves. And what our ability now is to look at how we can scale that up to drive effectiveness overall. From our point of view, that too is more than TV. The third area is how we can build more of an emotional connection with the nation, the customers of the brands that you represent here in the room today, and use that as a lever to drive behaviour and action. We're doing that more and more for social good, as well as with brands. And under ITV's Feel Good initiative, we've done a number of things over recent times. With Project 84, we wanted to highlight the fact that 84 men commit suicide every week in Britain. And the way we did that, using a relatively small media budget, was to commission a sculptor to make 84 statues, which we put on our buildings in London, and then galvanised the whole of ITV across our departments, but principally through this morning, to publicise that message and get that out there and start a conversation and provide the support mechanic for people. And this helped to generate over £2 billion of earned media and also lead to a 34% increase in calls to CALM's helplines. It's been debated in Parliament, and we saw last month government appoint a Minister for Suicide Prevention. So we think there's an opportunity for TV to deliver something above and beyond what it's been renowned for. We're doing that across a number of initiatives. The next one that we've got within our sites is called Veg Power, and we're working with a number of supermarkets and brands to help to encourage children to eat more vegetables, which you'll see on air from early next year. We do this as well for brands, many of whom are here today, and we've got countless examples of where we've worked with brands from Compare the Market to Just Eat to Matalan to a whole suite of brands and the case studies that we sit on there. Now, to move from being a media partner to a value business partner, we need to demonstrate that more often. And the seeds of where ITV are going in the future and the future of TV advertising are in what we're doing here and now. So it's our ability to scale this up that's really, really important. And the reason that we're confident about our ability and the demand in the market are the emerging trends we're seeing in terms of advertisers. Because over the last couple of years, across all categories, there's been a seismic shift, which was talked about in some of the talks earlier, where we've got emerging brands who didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago, who are seeing the power of TV in unprecedented ways. They're seeing an immediate uplift, whether it's site visits, whether it's immediate response to their campaigns, combined with them realising that they need to build a brand in the medium to long term. And we believe that there's huge potential in this. There are 5.5 million SMEs across the UK, most of whom have never been on TV, many of whom are using the likes of Facebook and YouTube. And we think there's an opportunity for TV to really set its sights more broadly going forward. So, from our point of view, more than TV, it's about delivering all of those things more often. We're looking at the structure that we've got within our commercial teams right across ITV in order to deliver that in terms of client teams, ad tech, data, direct-to-consumer, but also in terms of partnerships teams. And I think it's fair to say that TV, and we've heard it here this morning as well, has often been labelled as traditional. For the past 60 years, it's had to continually innovate, and what it's doing now is innovating faster than ever. And if TV is to be successful in the future, it's got to deliver more than it's ever done in the past. Thank you very much.
Right, so we're just going to pick up on one or two of those things. Hopefully some of you have some questions for Jason as well. So the first one is, when we talk about more than TV, what is, in terms of your agencies and your clients in the room, what are they actually going to see that is different from ITV or from you guys as the sales and client team?
Well, I think, I run all of our teams across the regions, and I think first and foremost we're looking at the structure of the team so that we are set up to deliver that better than ever, and that's a process we're going through at the moment. Secondly, you will see us investing behind the scenes in some of the ad tech and data capabilities to be able to deliver that. I'm happy to talk a little bit about that in a moment. And I think also, in terms of us moving to being a business partner, I think it's having a different kind of conversation, thinking about outcomes and thinking about working alongside agency partners, talking to clients to really understand what we need to do, potentially differently in the future, to focus on how we drive the bottom line for businesses.
Would any of that be going direct to clients whilst keeping agencies on board?
Yeah, I think we've heard it from Michael this morning already. I think we've been quite upfront with agencies for a while now, that we have conversations with clients. I think we're no different to Channel 4 and Sky and many other media owners in that respect. We're setting up a client development team in order to do that, and we do that alongside agencies. And I think all the best work that we've done, some of which we showed there, has always been done where we've sat in a room with clients and agencies together. That's where we do our best work.
There's a point made in the last session that very often nowadays it's client and agency times several in a room to discuss a campaign. Is that a barrier in terms of trying to build things like this?
How do you mean, in terms of there being multiple
just
agencies
multiple
involved?
People?
I don't think so. I think there's quite a distinction between some of the ways that the agency and marketing scene is working outside of London versus some of the multinationals in London. So I think actually there's probably a greater ability to make things happen because of the fact that it's a much leaner operation, I think some of the opportunity is to engage creative agencies earlier in that process as well, which I think sometimes isn't always the case.
Okay. I think listening to this morning, they'd welcome that by the sound of it. Yeah. A point that Sam made earlier, he said we need to get CMOs to understand how TV works, which sort of surprised me. I thought CMOs probably did understand how TV works, and it had been digital that they up for a while. So were you surprised by that or not?
I think there's probably a couple of things there. One, if you think back to, I think it was Jill's presentation at the start where she talked about how few CMOs are on the board. So the abilities for CMOs to have influence at the top level, I think we need to find ways to support them more. I think the other challenge is that a generation of senior marketeers come through who are more digital first. Actually, the job of not only ITV but also Channel 4, Sky and Thinkbox is to do a big education piece to remind people about the power of TV, because I think, as has been said, sometimes it's taken for granted. So I think there's still a big job to be done.
Okay. And talking of such, so we've got, we're very pleased to have a collaboration here, ITV, Channel 4, Sky partnering at this, and you had the festival, TV Festival last year for younger planners. You're all together at our London event too. Can you see that collaboration extending further into the trading world?
Well, that's a highly contentious point. I think there's a healthy
We'll ask Jamie that as well.
You can ask Jamie that as well. I think what you want, and I throw this back to agencies and advertising, you want healthy competition in the market. I think that equally you want us to have a joined up investment overall, whether it be the research we did around the bigger picture broadcast to VOD piece, whether it be other initiatives. And I think what we would encourage, and it's part of the conversation we've been having with agencies this year, is to come to us with the things that you want us to do. And if there are initiatives or research projects, we're all stakeholders in ThinkBox. We will feed that in and we will look to drive TV forward together.
Okay. Just one other point from this morning. It was and a point Carolyn McCall made in an interview the other day. She said that we need better quality planners across the industry. And I'm not sure if it was better quality, but it was more time or more resource or whatever was being mentioned this morning as well. Is that a perception you have?
Quality planners, gosh. I've read a lot of interviews that Carolyn's written, but not that particular one. I think we are putting more planning resource into our commercial team alongside our sales teams. I think sometimes our bandwidth within agencies probably hasn't been as upstream as it could have been. So I think we definitely need to engage more planners, and that would be on the creative agency side too. So I think that's what you might mean.
And do you see the quality of planners in agencies has changed at all?
I think planners have less time than ever. My background is media agency, and I was a planner for a number of years in London and Manchester agencies. And it does strike me that actually the pressures that planners are under in agencies is relentless. And so I think anything that broadcasters such as ITV can do to support planners, hopefully will be welcomely received.
Okay. We've got a couple of other areas to talk about. Does anybody want to pick up on anything within that? Any questions around those?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. Jason, by the way, is very pleased to be on stage today because his kids have been on stage here before and he hasn't. So you can get back at them anyway. Right, let's talk about addressable then, and the data and the hub and everything that goes with that. So I think it'd be reasonable to say that ITV's had a few false starts in this area. At the Gala a few years ago, there was something said about a partnership with Radio 1, there was a Sorensen partnership as well. So what's the plan now and what's changed?
Well, just looking back on those briefly first, I think one of the challenges with being ITV is when you test and learn things and try things out, you do it very publicly. And obviously we want to share more at an earlier stage. What we want to do is have a more upstream and greater ownership of some of those partnerships that we have rather than look at third party. Now I think one of the challenges with Sorensen is they themselves went into Chapter 11 recently. We were testing what we could deliver on addressable linear, and that stopped being commercially viable at that particular point in time. In terms of future plans, I mean it's a matter of public record that we bid for Videology when it went into Chapter 11 recently, lost to John Block's Amobi. And I think from
I think it's John Block's Amobi.
Well, for the purpose of today it can be. But I think what that shows is how serious ITV's intentions are in terms of investing in that. We recognise that actually looking broadly across the market at the available tech that we can partner with is hugely important, and the options are either to invest in that tech or to build that yourself. And the time and effort needed to build that is obviously one consideration. So we are looking at the various opportunities out there, and as and when we've got anything more to announce, we will do.
Okay. And around the hub, tell us a bit more about that and how you're developing that. Because you've got 27 million, it's 26 the other day, Jason.
26 and a half. I've been told I'd say 27 today.
Rounding up.
So 27 million users. I think there's a couple of things to say here. One, out of those 27 million registered users, around about 10 million are what we call active monthly users. So one of our next big challenges, and this is probably a marketing challenge first and foremost, is to get more people viewing more often, to bridge the gap between the 10 million and 27 million. We recognise, as being talked about this morning, that actually viewing habits are changing, and yes, for younger audiences, there are some big challenges. But we've got 75% of all 16-24s registered on the hub, a lot of that driven off the back of Love Island, and we're seeing increasingly that viewing is live as well as catch up on there. So from an advertising point of view, it's about using that data to create addressably targeted campaigns, and we're seeing quite a few instances of that coming through recently, and I think that will be probably the biggest growth trajectory that we see over the next year.
Okay, but this is all around digital, there's no addressable plans around linear?
At this moment in time, our priority and focus is on addressability on the hub. It may well be in future that we relook at that, which was the Sorensen piece that we had.
Okay. Anybody want to ask anything? Oh, John.
Oh gosh.
It's a tough question.
Well, it's just the obvious one, really. When you're saying it's hard to do addressable linear, why don't you just go to Sky and get on board AdSmart?
I was going to ask him that. I thought that was a bit mean.
We have, listen, we have an ongoing dialogue on lots of different levels with Channel 4 and Sky, but we're not going to be talking about that in more detail than that today.
Well, it's good, but it's like
ask Jamie the same question.
John. Yeah. Sorry, we have another question down here. We've got the microphone, please. Right in the second row. Right, here we go, coming from the other side. Just put your hand up there so you can see it. Yeah. Can you just tell us who you are?
Hi, yeah, I'm Laura. I'm from Home Agency. We're a media and creative buying agency. So my question is around audiences on ITV Hub, and obviously a lot of the time when we sell in BVOD, we sell it as an extension of TV. But I wonder, obviously, with using TV audiences at the minute, it just feels a bit archaic, and is there going to be a move towards having kind of more targeted options with ITV Hub in the future?
So, if I understood the question correctly, so in terms of ITV Hub, there are a myriad of different ways you can target on there using the data that we've got. Was your question more around the TV trading audiences, or was it around the Hub audiences?
More around the TV trading audiences.
Well, I think at the moment there's an established means, and Matt can talk about it in his section in a bit as well, around how TV is measured and traded using Barb and the different trading audiences that we have there. And I think I agree with you. I think, if you think about the development that we've seen, not just in terms of the hub, but also in terms of AdSmart and different ways that we can create audiences through our digital opportunities, it does feel quite archaic. I think where we are with Dovetail though is the ability to look at things across platforms, and I think it's the third stage of Dovetail's development is to look at how you can measure reach across those different platforms. So I think in the future, yeah, we do need to look at that, but that will happen when everything moves over to be able to be measured on an individual basis.
Just following from that, so obviously there's more data coming through on Dovetail. Do you think, though, that the metrics are now, to some degree, despite the gold standard of Barb, are a little bit out of date? I mean, we're talking a lot about effectiveness, and then we're also still talking about marketing guys who don't get how TV can be effective. So what do we do about that?
Well, I think if you think about Dovetail and the period of time that it's been talked about coming to market, the measurement will always be playing catch up on the technology. I think that's one thing. And even now, Dovetail is not measuring everything that people would want it to measure. I think there's definitely a disconnect between the way that we measure TV and when we start talking about effectiveness. But I think at the moment we also have a hugely regulated environment in TV where demand outstrips supply. So we need a model which enables us to manage that from the broadcaster's perspective, but also in terms of how we work with advertisers and agencies. So I don't think there's a perfect fit. I think we do, as I think Sam talked about before, need to become more agile, and I think we would continue to welcome any suggestions that advertisers and agencies have in terms of how we can evolve and adapt the TV model.
Somebody said to me earlier that with Facebook and Google, that if the metrics don't quite do it, they just invent another one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the difference is, as we saw with some of those stats earlier, we believe in transparency in terms of what we are delivering. I think it's sometimes quite staggering that Google and Facebook come out with some of the things that they do, and there probably isn't enough challenge out there from us as broadcasters, from advertisers and agencies to challenge what's being said. So I think we should all strive towards truth and calling stuff out when it's not factually correct.
Okay, right. A few quick perceptions that are out there in a sentence. Right, a young audience has left ITV. It has, hasn't it?
They haven't left ITV. They're looking at it in different ways across the hub.
Audiences are down. We've already dealt with that one.
They're not ITV.
No. Okay. Attribution. Too often says all down to the digital search online element. What do we do? Television do about that?
I think we need to. I think there is a real issue where we're measuring the wrong things. And I think one of the challenges we said is that we probably need to start banging the drum more for TV's short-term effectiveness. We often talk about its brand-building potential, its long-term effectiveness. I think we need to talk more collectively about how it drives immediate uplift. And if any agencies or advertisers don't have those case studies, come and talk to us, Channel 4 Sky and Thinkbox, about sharing with you some of those great examples.
Okay. And the last point to end on, Michael said right at the beginning, he wondered whether there was a bit of a confidence crisis. I think he was referring more sort of right across sort of what it gets labelled digital, traditional or proven media, I suppose.
I think we should be as sunny side up as we can. There are so many things for us to worry about and so much uncertainty out there, but there is still huge amounts of evidence about the power of telly, and I think we've probably been too defensive for too long, trying to combat what Google and Facebook have been saying. I think there are lots of reasons to be cheerful.
Good, I agree. For what it's worth.
Good.
Anyway, thank you very much indeed.
Great.
Thanks, Gracie.